All right, good evening, everyone. I have 5 o'clock on the dot. We can go ahead and get started. Call to order and looks like everyone's here.
Everyone's here. You have 2 vacant seats, so
Yeah.
you have a quorum. Actually, we're missing Greg Boom.
Oh, yeah, that is right. We're missing Greg Boom, so we'll just.
You have a quorum.
Approval of minutes, so I will entertain a motion, actually. Did we get the minutes passed out?
They were included in the packet.
All right, so I'll take a motion to approve the minutes for June 11th.
I've got one amendment. I was on vacation and tried to log in and didn't have a good enough internet connection, so it says that I was present, but I actually wasn't.
We
Got that
accept the
correction.
record?
Yep.
All right. So
Other than that, no.
I'll take a motion to approve with that amendment.
So I'll move, we approve the minutes with the amendment from this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Next up, we have public comment. I did not see any public comment in the room. Ben, you said you had one online.
Yeah, we have one online, Randy Johnson. I'm unmuting you now.
Are you there, Randy?
You'll probably have to unmute on your end as well.
Randy, if you can hear us, you probably have to unmute on your side, but we are ready for you.
He's texted me that he is not able to unmute. So I don't know what I can do differently on this end. So I think we'll have to move on.
Okay, Randy, if you would like, you could submit your comments via tax secretary. Yeah, and then we'll get those recorded.
Yep.
Thanks, Ben.
Next item on the agenda.
Oh, next time I'm doing, so election of vice chair, we had some shuffling of chairs and was the vice chair. Unfortunately, Jansen left me into this position, so we do need to elect a new vice chair. It is required, so we do need someone to step up, hopefully. So I guess any nominations for vice chair, I'll open that up.
I nominate Barbara.
I'll second that.
Very engaged, knowledgeable. I think she'll
All right.
do a great job if she's interested. We haven't had that conversation.
Just to reiterate, no other nominations.
Any other nominations?
This is your chance to nominate him or.
Back at you.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that, but okay. Yeah, so I'll take a vote. All in favor of Dr. Barbara Adams for vice chair?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, I decline.
Oh, you decline?
Yes.
All right. So we're still needing a vice chair. Any other nominations? John?
So, thank you. It can't be me, unfortunately. My city council term ends in November, and I currently serve on a seat that's reserved for an elected official, and a local elected official. So I will be exiting the board here as my term ends in November, if not before, if the county commissioners don't appoint somebody ahead of time. So, unfortunately, I cannot serve as vice chair. I appreciate that.
We
appreciate that.
We're currently in election appointments for almost everybody on the board. So,
Yeah, but I didn't request to be reappointed because I won't be able to fulfill the requirement that I've got, so. So unfortunately, sorry, it can't be, if I was staying, I would be happy to, but it can't be me.
Well, if we nominated Greg, he couldn't decline.
That is true. Do we need that?
I would, yeah, I'd advise against nominating somebody that's not present, who's calling over.
So it looks like it's,
Nominate this guy.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Teach you.
all right. I second that. Any, would you accept it?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
All right.
If I get reappointed, that's the, yeah, we'll see.
Oh, yeah, that is true. I think I'm up for,
Everybody is.
too. Yeah.
Well,
Everyone.
virtually everybody is.
We'll
And that's
see.
okay because at the time of the election, or I'm sorry, at the time of the appointments, then we can have another election. More to his point, the fact that he has other local governmental responsibilities, I think it's probably prudent to forego having you as the
Yeah.
vice chair.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, looks like we have a motion and a second. All approved? Okay. Any opposed? No? All right.
If we want to, we can go back to public comment, assuming it's followed. I got a message that Randy Johnson is now able to unmute himself.
I'll allow it, yeah, let's jump back to public comment. Randy, if you have unmuted yourself and then we get that recorded for vice chair, so we can skip coming back to that. And Randy, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, good. Okay. Hey, sorry about that. Another window popped up and I was able to get on. First I want to say, actually, I was not able to, it took me a half hour to log into last meeting, also on WebEx. That's why I missed the public comment. It was interesting because I think the other person just said that they weren't able to log in either. So I have a few meetings with information. I'll go fast, hopefully not too fast. In that meeting, I would have mentioned that was a June meeting. In July, I wrote down 455 training planes. These are Centennial and Rocky Mountain. I submitted 53 complaints to Centennial because trains, looks like the planes are purposely turning and flying directly over Levere's. 16 for Rocky Mountain. In June, I wrote down 400 and shoot, I got to get my reading glasses on. 464 training planes, 46 complaints to Centennial, 7 to Rocky Mountain. July, I wrote down 485 training planes, 57 to Centennial and 5 to Rocky Mountain. I haven't done any in August. Actually, it's been pretty quiet. I want to do positives. The Rocky Mountain training traffic has greatly reduced. At least in the afternoons, it's actually been quiet. Get a little more, when dark, but they are spread out, flying higher, and they're doing a good job. I want to thank them for that. To let you know. Now this is interesting too. When I submit a complaint, I stopped receiving the copy in the email, even though I included my email address. And also I haven't received the reminder notices. I signed up to get the reminder. So I actually called Jeffco County just the other day, and I have a ticket, IT, and they wrote a ticket for me. So that's just interesting information. I've always, been able to connect and all that. So something's strange because they do have my email address, and I do have the meetings, on the website where you can, select to be notified of meetings. So I just wanted to pass that on, but I do want to thank, I think you're talking to the schools and they're doing good from Rocky Mountain. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Randy. Thanks for the comment.
Yep.
All right. Ben, do you want to move on to item B?
We are ready.
All right.
I'm happy to introduce Josh Connolly from Pilatus Business Aircraft, who agreed to present. We try and do a tenant spotlight every few months or every quarter. And so Pilatus, we know, is a great tenant here at the airport and has kind of kicked off development on the south side of the field as we think about that into the future. But they're here to talk about what they do here at this airport and around the world.
Right, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Josh Connolly. I am Business Project Manager at Pilatus Business Aircraft. Um, Thank you first off for the opportunity to come here this afternoon and talk a little bit about who we are, what we do here on the airport, and kind of some of the things we have in motion at the moment. Can you switch to- So Pilatus Business Aircraft is the U.S. subsidiary of Pilatus Aircraft. Pilatus Aircraft is based out of Stans, Switzerland. It was founded in the late 1930s on the shores of Lake Lucerne and at the base of Mount Pilatus, huge mountain there, which gave us our name. Over the years, since 1939, we've had a whole variety of different aircraft models and, developed over the years. At this point, we have about 3,000 employees worldwide. And at this point, we have a variety of aircraft that we are producing at the moment. PC-7 and the PC-21 are pilot training aircraft, basically marketed towards military training. We can equip them with top-of-the-line avionics that trains pilots to work up into more advanced, like F-18 type aircraft. Operating costs are much lower than those, so that makes it attractive. PC-12 has been our bread and butter since it first came online in the late 90s. We have about several thousand of them at the moment in service, flying all over the world. And since 2018, PC-24, it's our business jet that we built from the ground up, intending for it to be used on super versatile situations, including on unimproved dirt runways. The picture you see there is of PC-24 operating in Western Australia, landing on a dirt strip. That's, I think, the Royal Flying Doctor Service. Flies several of them out there. Okay. Yeah, kind of like I mentioned, Pilatus Aircraft is based out of Switzerland. We are the U.S. subsidiary, and we also have a smaller but significant company operating out of Australia as well. Okay, yeah, so a little bit of trivia for those of you who may be the 007 fans. There's a couple of movies featuring Pilatus and James Bond. Goldfinger from 1964 features the main aircraft factory there in Stans, Switzerland, as the headquarters of Auric Enterprises, which is the lair of the main bad guy in Goldfinger. And then picture there, you can see, I think that's Sean Connery peeking down at Auric Enterprises, and then current day Pilatus aircraft factory there below. Also in 1995, there was a GoldenEye. The opening sequence features the PC-6 Porter, which is a short takeoff and landing utility aircraft that was in production 1959 through just recently, 2022, I think. And there you can see Pierce Brosnan jumping his motorcycle off a cliff and about to fly into the back of that PC-6 Porter. Not really something we generally recommend, but still kind of cool. So Pilatus Business Aircraft, which we refer to often as Pillball, is the U.S. subsidiary based here in Rocky Mountain Metro Airport since 1996. We started small way back then, focusing basically on bringing the PC-12 to the U.S. market. And in the years since, we've steadily been growing and growing. As of 2018, we also brought the PC-24 online here in the north, out of Metro here. And basically what we're doing here is all the interior completions, marketing, sales, service all throughout North and South America. So Canada all the way down to Argentina, cover not that entire territory. Almost 70% of all worldwide PC-12s and PC-24s are coming through Metro Airport, and we're completing them here. When I say we're completing, that means we are basically what happens is the basic aircraft is assembled in Switzerland. They fly over here to Metro, and we will fabricate, manufacture all of the interior components, headliners, sidewalls, seats, carpets, cabinetry, all that kind of stuff. And install those. Those are all specified custom by the customers. We'll also do some limited avionics upgrades, add antennas where we need to, that sort of thing. And also custom exterior paint as well. So by the time they leave our facility here, they are 100% ready to deliver to the customers. Okay. Our facility as of now is located on the opposite end of the other side of the runways here. When I first started at Pilatus back in 2009, we were located in several kind of dispersed hangars on this side of the runways, and our offices were actually located in the terminal building here. So all the administrative functions were operated out of this facility. As of 2018, though, with the PC-24 coming into service, we kind of outgrew our footprint, and at that point, we moved into our custom-built facility, 120,000 square foot completion center. A couple of years after that, we built up our paint shop, a 3-bay paint shop that we are doing all of our exterior paint as well. When I started in 2009, we had about 65 or so employees. And at this point, we've expanded about 200 employees to local skilled tradespeople doing all the upholstery work and interior fabrication. You know, we have avionics techs, structures technicians, as well as all the administrative and sales support, that sort of stuff. And here we are in 2025, we are already outgrowing footprint of those two facilities, and we're actively in the process of expanding again. Have a project underway for what we're calling our customer experience center. That is just about to kick off here the next several weeks. And by the time that's all finished, we should have capacity for another, eventually maybe 150 or so more employees. And already, even at this point, we're looking at opportunities after that. What comes next? How do we keep on expanding? Because honestly, North American market is the main market for Pilatus, and demand exceeds our ability to produce a steady supply. So we're looking for ways to expand here and throughout the US. Okay. Yeah. With that growth, we recognize it has an impact on the environmental impact. And one of our main company goals is to be not just Billball or Pilatus business aircraft locally, but Pilatus as a whole is to be 100% net zero climate neutral by 2050. It's a firmly defined goal in the company. Already, we here locally are taking some steps to accomplish that. On the next slide, for example, our completion center in 2024 finished installation of a huge solar array on top of our hangars there. It's been in operation since 2024, and at this point, it is producing more electricity than we're using. We're actually feeding electricity back into the system, and we're taking that same approach to all of our future buildings. And in addition, aiming to reach LEED Gold certification, LEED being a green industry standard for construction. So we're kind of taking these steps to make sure that we're being responsible stewards to the environment and doing what we can. I've seen a graphic somewhere that of all the CO2 emissions in the world, aviation is only 2%. Business aviation is 2% of that 2%. And we at Pilatus are some small fraction of that 2% of the 2% of the 2%, but we recognize we have an impact and we have an ability to do something. So it's important for us as a company, and we're spending a fair bit of money to make sure that we're being responsible. Okay, also in line with that, we are actively working to implement the use of sustainable aviation fuel into our operations. Both the PC-12 and PC-24, and actually all of Pilatus aircraft at this point, are certified to use sustainable aviation fuel, which is a non-petroleum biofuel. It's derived from byproducts of the agricultural industry. And long story short, basically by using that fuel, we were able to significantly cut down the carbon footprint of using the Jet A that we use during our operations. So we're working with the airport and trying to coordinate getting the sustainable aviation fuel enacted as soon as we possibly can. And we will be using it for all of our production and delivery flights as soon as we can make that happen. On that, I would say if anybody's curious and is interested in more information, you can visit our website, pilatus-aircraft.com. All sorts of good multimedia, interactive content, and all sorts of additional information available through the website there. On that, yes. Oh, yeah.
What's the difference between the PC-7 and the 21?
Well, the PC-21 is the newest generation trainer, and they, as I understand it, that is its ability to incorporate all the latest avionics. So it's like training the people who are using that up to the like 5th generation jet fighters, that sort of thing. Whereas the PC-7, it's a little bit older generation. It's more like the fighter trainers. It's a lot more, not, let's say more agile, but it's definitely a different focus rather than the avionics platform, maybe more of the maneuverability.
You have to have a security clearance to put any of those avionics in?
With some of it, yeah, you do. At this point, the majority of those aircraft, the PC-7 and the PC-21, are marketed towards European militaries primarily. Swiss Air Force, the Italian Air Force, which of course I believe all have those, and many more. But it's, at this point, primarily you've got European customers.
I take it the C in PC is some Swiss word for aircraft.
Well, there's some debate about what exactly that all means, how the PC and all those number and letter designations, how they originated, and there's no clear consensus at this point that I've heard. But I'm sure it has something to do with a Swiss German word or something.
Yeah. Cool.
The customer completion or the customer experience center, is that, I guess, planned to be built here at?
It is, yes. It's going to be right next door to our current paint shop, actually. Yeah.
How soon?
Well, we are working on the last little bits of it right now in terms of like the permitting and all that, and it should be groundbreaking here very soon.
Roughly how many aircraft a year are going through the completion center and the paint shop?
Oh, I had a note I meant to mention that. We have about 100, between the PC-12 and the PC-24, about 100 per year coming through right now. And kind of like I mentioned, the demand exceeds the capacity right now, so we're looking to expand that over the next, we have several strategic company-wide initiatives to build out our business presence.
Couple of weeks then, 2 a week or something.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you were a set for Goldfinger.
I think I heard you guys having a little sidebar conversation. I too saw an article the other day, I think online, about the impact on tariffs on, and maybe a decision at corporate not to be bringing, not to sell to the US or
Yeah, I
Then
mean,
if you-
at this point, I don't want to get too far into politics or anything like that, but
No,
yes,
I don't
at this
either.
point, we have temporarily paused imports just until we get the tariff situation figured out, how to best manage that, because we are facing a 39% tariff at this point, which that would have pretty big impact on the way we do things.
Sure.
So we are still pretty optimistic that we're going to get something worked out. It's just when exactly that's going to happen and what it's going to look like is still unknown. So
I have an odd question. I go over to your guys' facility when I fuel and you have a mobile refueler trailer with a dragon that's painted on the back. Is that due to the myth in Pilatus Mountain?
yeah, there's supposedly a dragon of some sort that's on Mount Pilatus. Yeah.
And I've always wondered why that dragon was painted on it. I'm like, I bet it's due to the mythology up in the mountain that Pilatus is named after, so. Cool.
Yep.
How many employees do you have?
Right now, here on Metro, we have about 200 employees. So company-wide, all throughout the whole Pilatus group, we're up about 3,000, but we have 200 here locally on Rocky Mountain Metro
And expanding.
and expanding, yes.
All right, any other questions? Well, thank you so much for the presentation.
Thanks.
Great.
And move on?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. You're welcome to stay if you'd like. So the next agenda item, kind of the genesis was Mr. Reinolf asking about a particular development that's occurring in the city and county of Broomfield on the south side of the airport, but we thought it'd be a good opportunity to kind of run through how this airport and probably typical airports review and respond to development around them. So I'll give you a little bit of background on kind of land use, not law, but generally how land use regulations and reviews work, and then go through a couple different cases, and then we welcome your thoughts after that. So just as background, land use is typically a state or a local issue. Sometimes it's funny working with people who work primarily for airports because FAA so dominates our world that some people are surprised that the FAA or an airport can't just say, no, don't build that apartment complex off the end of the runway. Typically, we don't have that power. And then the state of Colorado delegates land use regulation typically to local governments. It's one of those decisions that's made at a local level, is that philosophy. So then local governments, when reviewing a proposed land use case, use a referral process where they send the development proposal to referral agencies or partners to provide comment. We are typically one of those referral agencies for like the city and county of Broomfield, Westminster, sometimes Superior, Jefferson County for sure. So when we get those referrals, we provide comments, and I'll go into how we provide comments. It's not just kind of my opinion on whether I like it or not. There's kind of a structure that we use. But yeah, just as a reminder, the FAA has very little authority over decisions, and given that this airport's on kind of a county boundary, we often don't, our sponsor also doesn't have a lot of authority over land use decisions surrounding this airport. The FAA does have some small roles in land use review. One of them is through, we call it a 7460 review, but it's called Part 77 surfaces, and it's looking at whether a proposed structure or development will impact navigable airspace. I'm not going to read all this stuff. It's in your agenda packet. I will emphasize that word that's underlined is notify. So for a developer who's developing near an airport, they should look at this regulation, and if they trigger one of these thresholds, they're supposed to notify the FAA through the specific form about their development or about the structure or the tower that's occurring. So like a cell phone tower, for example, might trigger that notice. That's kind of one of the main ways the FAA is impacted. Then the other way FAA regulations come to impact land use around this airport is through the airport sponsor assurances and how we are supposed to work towards complementary land uses around the airport. And so we're a recipient of federal funds, and we're charged to identify and mitigate hazards to navigable airspace. That map on the right is actually the Part 77 surfaces. You would find that in our master plan, but that kind of defines from the FAA's point of view or the airspace point of view, the structures that would impact into those radiuses would be something we'd have a concern over. Whether we could address it or have an issue with it or have any control over it's a different matter. But these are typically not triggered, though. I want to emphasize this airport is up on a plateau, and most of the development that occurs around here starts off below our runway elevation and oftentimes doesn't even reach to the runway elevation. And even if it does, it's a slope extending out from the airport. So it's hard to imagine a land use or development around here. It would have to be like a 20-story office tower or something like that, fairly close to the runway. That would be a pretty red flag from a navigable airspace perspective. And I'll emphasize that part. The other part that is also works towards complementary land use planning is just compatible land use in general. And so that has to do with good land use decisions around an airport. So specific to that, airport sponsor assurance number 21 charges us or charges Jefferson County to work to the extent reasonable, including the adoption of zoning laws to restrict the use of land adjacent to or in the immediate vicinity of the airport to activities and purposes compatible with normal airport operations. That second part of that paragraph, it's noise compatibility program. We do not have one of those yet. It's possible we would have one if it became a possibility after the Part 150 study, but that second part of it does not really apply to us yet. So we do that. We try to attempt to fulfill the first part of this paragraph to the extent we can. And we use the environment's land use plan to kind of weigh in on development referrals and consider whether a land use is compatible if it's in the vicinity of the airport. And then I'll also mention the Part 150 study. A part of that looks at complementary land use planning too. It's possible if we're allowed to proceed to a noise compatibility plan that there will be land use recommendations as part of that, which could include, suggestions to change zoning or things of that nature. We'll know more about that in the coming year. So that environment's land use plan from 2011 generally talks about 3 different categories of zones around the airport. The first of which is called the runway protection zone. These are very close to the ends of the runway. And it's very much an FAA prescribed zone that they don't want to see any sort of structure within it. In fact, they would prefer these are contained on airport property, and there's FAA grant funds available to purchase property if it's available to actually incorporate that onto the airport. Not all of our RPZs, our runway protection zones, are on airport property, but they generally comply with the goal of having no structure within the boundary. Some roads are grandfathered in. They would prefer not to see new roads built within a runway protection zone, but Wadsworth Boulevard and Colorado Road 128 and are partially within them. And then we have a tiny bit of a building within the city of Westminster that might be in the 1 for 30 right. But generally, if we saw land use or a proposal on this, we would essentially be begging to not have any buildings built within that runway protection zone. And we've been successful. The development on Wadsworth, it's an industrial development called, I think it's by Lepore. They ensured that they didn't have anything but, I think, parking lot in that runway protection zone. The next one would be called the airport critical zones, and these also contain the approach zones for the runway. And the environment's land use plan defines this as areas that have the potential to be more impacted by and have more impact on airport activities. And so this is an area where our environment's land use plan says basically, like, we don't recommend residences or schools or daycare centers. We strongly discourage them. And we have some of those within our critical zones, and partly that goes to Jefferson County not having control over that. But it's just one of those things where when we see a referral within one of these zones, that is typically one of the airport's comments citing back to language within the plan. There's also a consideration of you don't want activities that create glare or distracting lights in the evenings or wildlife attractants within these approach zones too, because it's somewhere that a jet is on on approach and doesn't want to have like a pond that attracts a ton of geese or something like that within them. So that's one of those considerations. And then kind of the third larger zone that's defined in the plan is the airport influence area. To me, this is one that's a little, it's a larger area, and it's one where a couple of goals are, we attempt to seek a navigation easement, and there's a draft navigation easement within the master plan for any properties within this. But it's also the area which we request referrals from surrounding jurisdictions. So if they have a rezoning case within this area, that is our ask, is that they include us in the development referral process. Can't say it always happens, but I would say city and county of Broomfield, city of Westminster, and Jefferson County are pretty good at doing that. Then there's one other area that I've begun kind of considering as we think about these, as we've learned more about how land uses are impacted around this airport, and it's just the area underneath the traffic pattern. And that's just generally represented by those orange shapes on the map there. And then the approach zones for the IFR approaches are kind of those narrow green corridors. But, you know, what we've learned is that if you're underneath these traffic patterns, you're likely to be more likely to be impacted by aircraft operations. So it's something we kind of consider now as part of development referrals. We at least inform the developer that, hey, heads up, you are immediately underneath the traffic pattern for whichever runway. So I'm going to run through just two cases and how like we have looked at them and how we use the environment's land use plan to provide referral comments. The first is Broomfield site development plan for an industrial or warehouse building not very far from here. Actually, the airport and the runway can be seen just down here. Here's runway 21 and some hangars. So this is just across 120th from the airport property itself. So the way we would look at this is, all right, we see that's 122,000 square foot office and distribution facility. We do not think there will be Part 77 concerns. It's going to be no more than a 2-story building. However, we'll ask the developer to review and file that 7460 form just in case, have the FAA's eyes on that. It is not within the runway protection zone, so no worries there. It is partially within a critical zone, the critical zone for runway 321. So fortunately, it's not one of those land uses that we should discourage within a critical zone. It's an industrial building, so we don't particularly have concerns there. It is within the airport influence area. It is underneath the traffic pattern, so our letter noticed that, hey, you are underneath the traffic pattern. There will be a lot of aircraft activity overhead, but we don't have any land use compatibility concerns, was ultimately our comment to Broomfield on this case. In fact, it's a very complementary land use. And then kind of maybe not opposite, but a different type of example is a proposed site development plan also in Broomfield to convert a planned unit development or a site development plan to allow residential uses just south of 112th Avenue. This is known as the Great Western Park. We had seen this as a development case a few years ago. In my recollection, it was entirely employment uses. And at the time we said this was compatible, no issues. So it's coming back. The developer would like to change to allow the development of medium and high density residential up to 820 new residential units. So going through kind of those same questions we have is, are there Part 77 concerns? Not likely. It's going to be well below runway elevation. Is it within a runway protection zone? No. Critical zone? No. Definitely within the airport influence area, and it is underneath that traffic pattern. So it's one of those ones that's a little bit gray from a land use plan standpoint, but it's one where, based on our knowledge now of experience underneath the traffic pattern, it's one where we are likely, Broomfield and the developer are likely to get some complaints over aircraft operation once residences move in. So it's one where, you know, we've suggested they consider a different land use or not consider residential there. That was part of our referral comments. And if they do, we offer to write residential noise disclosures or anything we can do to kind of help them inform potential residents about it. We've done that for other apartment complexes nearby because Broomfield has approved a lot of residential in the vicinity of this airport. So if we can provide like a write-up that like your leasing office gives to a tenant saying, hey, you might be looking at this on a quiet day and just be aware there's an airport nearby and this is what that will look like. So we offer those kinds of services. But this one is still within the review, the referral stage closed, but it still, I believe, has to go through the city and county of Broomfield approval process. I don't know where the dates are on that at the moment. So I think that's kind of a quick overview of how we respond to development around this airport. Like I said, we'll know more partly through the Part 150. I kind of also look forward to revising that environment's land use plan in the next master plan update, which is scheduled for 2027. It could just frankly, it could use some improvement and some more detail and clarify some inconsistencies in the language. So that'll be another opportunity to improve the way we respond to development as well. But happy to answer any questions or thoughts on specific cases.
Ben, I have a question for you kind of along those lines. So I understand the technical, we're gonna make these referrals based on a specific set of criteria for these specific different zones. However, we also have spent 3 or 4 years with the Community Noise Roundtable and the Airport Advisory Board with significant strife over noise impacting residential in proximity to the airport. And one of the key arguments that the folks who are experiencing noise make is they say, I knew there was an airport when I moved in. I was fine with it, but it doesn't operate the same now as it did when I moved in. And that's what I want stopped is I don't want you to operate the way you operate now. I want you to operate the way you operated in 2016 when I moved in or something like that. And it seems like that's the spot where people hang their hat on. Is there a way that this referral process can maybe be more definitive or more aggressive in the referrals to the land use controlling agency about this is what it is now, but we don't know what it's gonna be in the future, and there's no plans to. I mean, when I see particularly this case that brought forward this Broomfield change in land use, I look at that and I just cringe because you're absolutely setting up, the exact same, Rock Creek issue is coming again. If that were to come to fruition, I can't believe the counselors in Broomfield would even entertain it. I mean, given the strife they've had and participated in with the noise thing. But I wonder if there's more of a structural way that can have more emphasis on things like that, because some of it, if it's a runway protection zone or something, there's an easy way to have emphasis, based on the technical merits. This isn't so much technical merits, but it's really a bigger issue probably than any of those others are.
Yeah. No, it's a great question, and it's one like, as a planner, I'm trained to respond based on the plan I have that's adopted by, in this case, Jefferson County, but certainly things are, we know more than we knew in 2011, and I think, like I mentioned, I think that plan can be improved, and I think the way we respond can be improved. I think the Part 150 study might provide some tools as well. But I guess there's the official position the airport can take, but then there's perhaps other ways Jefferson County or specific people can weigh in on, and talk to City and County Broomfield in this case about that proposal outside that process.
Yeah, it would seem like maybe a natural place for whether it's the Airport Advisory Board or an advocacy group for the airport, whether that's AOPA or some other organization to really emphasize this is creating a future problem. Like don't create a future problem, whatever you do, because the official referral part that we as elected officials would see in our land use report is, one little line amongst a whole bunch of different lines. But 10 people standing at the podium making a comment about this has a lot more weight than the one line probably in the referral. I think that line in the referral speaks to the professional planners that are on the staffs, but the noise, after something is built, the strife isn't coming from the professional planners, it's coming from the regular citizens that occupy.
No, it's very much a fair point and something we should be looking at.
Yeah.
What can we do? Can we do anything, not only to help protect the airport and its operations, but the people who might be moving in and have some sort of side effect from noise or what have you? Can we do anything?
Well, Ben gave a very good presentation of what we can do, of what the legal requirements, the legal responsibilities, all that stuff. What I want to do is move that if our attorney says that we're within our rights to do so, that this advisory board should submit a formal letter to the city council of Broomfield explaining what I said in this draft, that you are creating a future problem. You're not violating any law, you're not violating any rule. Yes, they'll have a navigation easement that they'll all sign when they buy their house.
Right.
I live in Skystone, which is 1.5 miles from the downwind for 30 left, and I estimate about 1 out of every 25 people was even aware that they signed a navigation easement, much less aware of the implications of it. And I think it's well within our remit to
Yeah.
make
Be
this
that
kind of
advocacy
effort,
group,
because we recognize that we are avoiding future trouble for
Right.
the airport.
Right.
And
And if not us, who?
Yeah.
And I do agree with the intent of this, and I would like to be more direct to the jurisdictions around the airport. I'm just curious, in the guardrail or guidelines that we have to operate as an advisory board to Jefferson County, what is kind of the stipulations around how direct can we be?
Yeah, so in regards to speaking for the county, the Airport Advisory Board does not have any authority to do so. They can make recommendations. However, in this case, the planning and zoning case that we have is in Broomfield, and so the BCC does not have any authority or jurisdiction over that case. What you all can do is absolutely what you said. You can speak in your individual voices. You can participate in the Broomfield County process, go make public comment. You can speak through an advocacy group. But then laid out the process by which the county responds to those extra jurisdictional issues. And so the way that the airport will respond to that is referring to the referral process and laying out the issues they see with the development.
so it's your opinion that we, as a board, cannot send a letter to the city council?
No, your authority is strictly providing advice or recommendations to the BCC. But like I said, in this case, and the way I'm going to word this, don't take offense, it would make sense to send a motion to advise the BCC on this case because they do not have jurisdiction over it. And they have explicitly delegated the ability to respond to the development through the referral process that Ben outlined.
Okay, you just lost me on all of that, but my alternate proposal is that as a board, we send a very similar letter to the county commissioners and ask the county commissioners, please, on behalf of the airport, to contact the city and county of Broomfield and express the.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get that, but the avenue by which you do that is through the referral process that he's talking about. The BCC wouldn't comment on an extra jurisdictional.
I didn't hear anything in the referral process about us advising the county commissioner of this county.
Right, because that authority is delegated to the airport staff to do so.
All in all, it seems tepid at best. I mean, again, with no offense to anybody, you could complying with what you have to comply with, but it seems pretty ineffective.
So you're saying that we have authority to advise airport staff, but only airport staff gets to talk to the county commissioners.
Correct.
Okay,
And again, this is an odd situation because we are bordering another jurisdiction that's ruled by a completely different governing body. That's the the general issue that this airport has with most of these issues.
I guess one way to think about it would be, you could tell me, go brief the BCC about this and advise them to oppose it, right? The BCC would probably take that as, thank you for your information, Eric. It's very appreciative, but we have no authority to do that. So, thank you. What Anthony was trying to say is the actual method for that is something that both Ben and I actually did, is Ben submitted a response to the actual formal referral for Broomfield. And I sent a nastygram to Broomfield saying, hey, don't do this. And maybe even that was beyond what it probably should have done, but like, that's really where our limits are. The opposite token of that could be, let's say the BCC did do that, where they told Broomfield, you can't do this. The side effect is it will not take long for Broomfield then to do the same.
Yeah.
And so it sounds great until we have to think about how does that really affect all the jurisdictions around us. And we have to kind of keep all of that professional and through the referral process, rather than trying to do this on the level of the BCC where things could get particularly complicated quickly. And I mean politically complicated quickly rather than just technically complicated.
I can tell you this, that's the official process. As an elected who sat in on land use case, many land use cases over the years. The most impactful thing to us is when individual or groups that are advocates, not officially sanctioned by the county, come to us as deciders on these land use cases and make their case, make their public comment or their case or testimony on this land use. And, to me, if I were in my job in Arvada, if it was the Friends of RMMA group formed and came with 20 people to the meeting and to the public hearing to make public testimony about, hey, you shouldn't do this and here's why. Let me tell you a story about Rock Creek, or let me tell you, whatever, that's impactful. But I think what Ben and Eric are saying is that the official process has to remain the official process. You can't hijack the official process. The official process will be followed. It's just maybe not as impactful as the public process is. And this body probably doesn't have the ability as a body to engage in the public process, but as individuals, you certainly do. And it may be that it's more useful if there's a different group that's not this body, that's not this group, even though you can be part of both, is the group that does the public process in a use case.
For example, like the community members who are like on the focus groups of the Part 150 study could be like an example of people who could do that. They could easily go to any community and talk about what John is mentioning. So can you can do that. It's just that the complication becomes as part of the advisory board can't do it. And so you could tell me to do it, and we did that, but I don't have a mechanism to tell the BCC to go tell our community what to do.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right.
Okay. I know we're getting a little short on time. I'll keep going. The airport advisory board policy revisions was something we mentioned might be coming before you a few months ago. And just as background, this board was formed because Jefferson County Board of Commissioners adopted a policy back in 2019. And it created 8 positions for this board, this newly formed board back then. 2 business owners, 2 Jeffco citizens at large, 1 residential property owner, 1 adjacent jurisdiction, 1 airport tenant, and 1 alternate. And the business owners and residential property owners must be within the airport influence area, harkening back to a previous agenda item. But that policy that was adopted had the following language on terms. Essentially, 3 of the members had 1-year terms, 4 members had 2-year terms. And that was done with a good intent to not have everyone's term expire like 1 year later or 2 years later and everyone roll off again. But it never had a mechanism for unstaggering the terms. And so you had like, everyone has a term limit of 4. but you had people with 1-year terms and people with 2-year terms. So some people could serve whatever, 8 years, and some could serve 4 years, and some people were reapplying every year. And I think some of you know that, you've experienced that. And I don't think that was ever the intent. So that's one of the main revisions we're proposing in this new advisory board policy. And so you can see the track changes were included in your packet. But essentially what we're doing is recommending all the seats have 3-year terms. So as people's terms expire, they'll be appointed to 3 years, with the one exception that we still need to keep them staggered. So as we fix this next appointment cycle, some people might get 2-year terms, some people might get 3-year terms, just so that we can keep the staggering going forward. But then hopefully there will be no more reapplying every year for some of you. And it also fixes that disparity between term lengths and total length served. Other proposed edits just involve fixing some conflict of interest language and making some of the other language consistent with other board and county commission policy. So that's it. I ran through it pretty quick. The changes are in your packet. We actually brief this to the Board of County Commissioners next Tuesday. But if you have comments today, or if you want to email us comments before next Tuesday, we can certainly mention those while we present. So any thoughts or comments at this moment?
My thought is, wahoo.
Okay. Yeah, I know it can be a pain to reapply every year.
Then the question would be, do you want a motion from this body supporting those recommended changes? Does that give you any advantages, or is that anything you'd like to have?
I don't think we need to, and maybe just complicate things at the moment, but certainly if we got questions back from the board and wanted to check back in with you, that might be helpful in the future.
Yeah, and you're more than welcome to discuss if anybody notices any issues, like you said, send it on to Ben so that we can incorporate that, consider it. The idea behind it is to try to create some more continuity with this group and then just some organizational issues.
Yeah, so far I did not have any questions. I was in general agreement, and I've applied every year, so I'd like to probably not do that in the future, but no, I think most of the changes were well done. Yeah. Any other questions? All right.
All right, moving on to project updates. Kilo and Delta, I finally have different news than I've had for many months, and that is that we're actually starting construction next Monday on this project. All the relevant permits have been approved. We have some movement on Excel, not all of the movement that I would like to see, but we know at least part of it has been scheduled for, part of the utilities have been scheduled for relocation, and we hope to have news on the gas line here shortly. We did work on a change order here to incorporate the cul-de-sacs that will need to be constructed on Calendar Drive where that gets severed. So those are, we're working on the cost for that additional change. That wasn't part of the original bid. And that'll also bump up the construction days to probably around 130 total construction days, starting next Monday. So if you want to back that out, we're hoping to wrap up this project by the end of the year. And I mean, the key point there is that we do paving before the asphalt plant closes in late November is what I learned about that. So that's kind of the driving concern at the moment. And then there'll also be a locally funded fence project that kicks off concurrently, and we'll be starting that shortly too. So when I created this slide, I didn't know the exact start date, but you can fill in August or next Monday for that start date. And if you're an airfield user, pay attention, there will be some closures to taxiway Delta on occasion, and actually the runway 30 left as well on occasion. Next project, unleaded fuel transition. We have the contractor or the construction contract going. They have ordered the tank. We don't have the exact ETA on when that tank will be delivered, but we're working on site prep. We'll start the site prep in early September. So that project's ongoing. We still hope to have the tank installed by the end of the year, and also select FBO to help us operate that tank with that RFP closing on August 19th. So hopefully we'll have some news next month on that one. Any questions? Part 150 airport noise compatibility study. We had our regular status meeting today, but the operations forecasting is ongoing. We expect to actually see an operations forecast here in the next 2 weeks to a month. So that'll be exciting. That'll be the first real data we see back from the consultants that are gonna ultimately lead to the development of noise contours. They're also wrapping up, the consultants also wrapping up the development of a land use map that will kind of help tie in that whole project. And then we're thinking that there'll be another check-in with this group and the consultants in late 2025. We thought it would be good to try and wait until you're back to full membership. So that'd be probably November at this point. But you'll get to learn more at that time. Hopefully we'll have the forecast. We can talk about some other things at that time. Sydney, did you want to take this one? Open house?
So we had our first open house for the Part 150 study, first chance for the public to come and talk about it and learn about it. It was on July 10th and we had around 80 attendees. And like I said, it was an opportunity for stakeholders and the public to learn more. And all of the presentation, there was like foam boards, all of those that were at that meeting, if you weren't able to attend, are online at rmmapart150study.com. There's also a chance there to submit public comment, and all of that is added to the official record as part of this study.
Going back to me for just a sec, Airport Advisory Board appointments, just to keep you updated on that one, the appointment cycle closed end of July. We owe our recommendations to county staff here shortly, and those appointments will actually be made in September. Hopefully y'all have new members in October if the schedule stays on track. And to those members who had to reapply, thank you for reapplying. And then back to you, I think.
So 1 week from today, on August 20th, next Wednesday, we will have our this quarter's open town hall. So we're doing one session. If you remember last quarter, we did two, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. We're doing one session this time, but longer, from 4 to 6:30 p.m. Same format as last quarter. Our feedback was pretty positive about it. Not people that came liked that it wasn't a formal presentation. It was just a chance to kind of walk around and talk about what was important to them and hear from airport leadership. So we'll do that. It'll be here at the terminal building, just upstairs here, August 20th, 4 to 6:30 p.m.
For the feedback that you received, do you record that anywhere, or is it something you could share with the board, or?
Yeah, it was just like as people came up to me during the town halls last quarter and they said, thanks for doing this. And we liked that it wasn't, you didn't sit and talk at us, that there was an opportunity for us to actually have conversation. So it wasn't anything logged. It was just verbal that I heard. And then use that to then make this quarter's.
Makes sense.
That's it for updates.
Any questions on the updates? I know we had, we're a bit over, about 4 minutes over, but if there are no objections, I know Dr. Adams has a quick presentation.
It's up to everybody. It's about a 4-minute thing. It's just fairly quick.
So give me.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. You can go through here pretty quickly. What?
Are you giving us viruses, Barbara?
Okay, Oshkosh 2025. I went, everybody. Oh my gosh, it was my first time. 704,000 people, almost 1 million people there. And people every place. And it was just astounding. And they're all aviation lovers. And it was just so great to be in with this crowd that it was really astounding. As you first enter and you see the big gates saying, welcome to EAA, etc. And it was just kind of heart pounding to be there with all of this. Okay. Let's see what happens now. Okay, 10,000 aircraft. I couldn't believe it. I knew there would be aircraft there. Miles and miles and miles. I was so glad I'm not an ATC because was to get all those planes in, get them parked and get them in and out. Oh, what a job. And they had more than 15,000 camping sites. And so people were crowded in. It took maybe an hour to get just to drive in from the freeway, which wasn't very far. It still took an hour of just mainly stop more than go. So, oh my gosh. You can go through here pretty quickly. These are just some photos of just planes there that I just took really quickly. Just all kinds of things and just really interesting to see all the display of all the types of aircraft and their capabilities and some new stuff, some old stuff, and it was really interesting. Yeah. And then they had a lot of aircraft there too. Yeah, there you go. Miles and miles and miles. And I thought I'd gone to the end, but no, there was still miles more of aircraft there. That will give you an idea of the people there. It's at the Boeing Center, and they had some pretty big aircraft there too, but tons of people. So yeah, unbelievable. It went on and on and on. And they had a Civil Air Patrol booth there that was pretty big, but not a lot of activity in it, but oh well, so what? Air shows every day from 2 o'clock on, and all kinds of aircraft, aerobatic, jets, big aircraft, small, everything in between. It was unbelievable. And some of the chances to see aircraft doing really phenomenal work in the air was just astounding. Yeah, there you go. The night show. Now here's a video that I wanted to share with you. Will it come on to play? Should. And I was
We
told.
did not rehearse the.
Oh, well. The night show, I was told it was phenomenal. No words can describe it. Oh my gosh. Tons of fireworks. There were lasers going off in the middle of the fireworks, aircraft flying all around with fireworks coming out of them. There were bombs going off that you could feel the heat. A drone show throughout all of this, with drones going from aircraft to jets to tanker fueling up a jet craft, from as you can tell, I got pretty excited. They had whole Jurassic Park thing with dinosaurs roaring at you and coming at you. And and a space shuttle going off with an astronaut doing a spacewalk. The drone show was phenomenal in itself, but that was amongst all of the other fireworks that were just unbelievable. So anyway, I just wanted to show you a bit of Oshkosh, and if anyone wants to go with me, 2026, sign up here.
Next time, fly in and camp. It's a lot more fun.
Is it really?
I did it 3 different times.
Okay, okay.
Well, perfect. Thank you, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you.
I haven't been yet, but yeah, I keep planning on going maybe one
Sure.
year, so.
Fly in and camp.
Fly. Sure. All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right.
You wanna-
Oh.
It's too late now, but I was wondering if you want to set the next meeting date?
Oh, yes, that's a great question.
It would be September 10th.
All right, September 10th. Any issues with that from the? No, let's do that. All right, any opposed to adjourn? I have 6:10. All right, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.